Welcome to New Pioneer Presents. I'm Theresa Carbrey, Education Director at New Pioneer Co-op, and today I'd like to talk about soy foods. We're going to learn about soy foods, including tofu, tempeh, some soy drinks, and some other products that are made with a soybean. You know, there's a lot of soybeans grown in Iowa, but most people don't eat very many soy products. One of the reasons is that soy, when it's coming out of the fields, is pretty hard and tough to digest, but it offers much nutrition. And it's certainly an ecologically sound and economical source of good quality protein. So let's take a look at some products that we can make. Of course, tofu is the most famous and the most joked about soy product. We're going to make a very good hot and sour soup featuring tofu today. We're also going to make one of those very popular pasta salads, the New Pioneer pasta salad, that has tempeh in it. Tempeh is a cultured Indonesian soy product. Some people think it has a flavor sound like dark meat chicken. It's very good. Let's take a look at some of the ingredients we'll be including in our hot and sour tofu soup and our New Pioneer pasta salad with tempeh. Let's take a look. So of course our pasta salad and our hot and sour soup will feature lots of vegetables. We like to be in the plant kingdom, nutritious, economical, very much where we like to be. So we can see we're going to have some cabbage and sprouts and so forth will be in our soup. There's a variety of tofus available. I'm very keen on the organically grown tofu. These organically grown soybeans come right here from Iowa, grown down by Fairfield. We also have, for those who are interested in it, a reduced fat tofu. So tofu is about 40 to 45% calories from fat. Okay, so if you were on a low fat diet, you would like to have calories from fat not higher than 30%. But tofu really earns its keep, and so as long as there's candy bars and other frivolous things out there in the world, I'm not going to feel the least bit bad about having a regular full-fat tofu. I think they have a great flavor, but the reduced fat is very satisfactory too. Okay, so here's White Wave. This is American Pride, and we have other varieties too, and each different varieties will be slightly different and will work well in different situations. I think tofu is fun because it itself is a very mild, delicate flavor. And that means that it will work well with whatever you're offering for seasonings. So today we'll be working with some bright flavorings. Cumin and coriander will be included among them, as well as basil and oregano, to achieve different effects. And the tofu will take up those flavors well. One could also work with tofu, perhaps in sort of a sweet situation, making a mock tofu cheesecake, using vanilla and sweetening to sort of bring out the flavors of the tofu in a different direction. And of course, if you were looking to have a nutritious dip, tofu lends itself very well to sort of being blended together with some garlic and fresh vegetables and allowed to marinate overnight. It's quite a good dip. Here's some tofu that the New Pioneer prepares in the deli, putting it in a marinade with spices and a little soy sauce, a little vinegar, a little olive oil, some hot sesame oil. We'll be using that today ourselves in our hot and sour soup. Let's see, I believe this is one. Now this is pretty hot, so be careful how you handle this. You might take it slowly until you find out just how hot you and your crowd like it. But once again, the delicate flavors of the tofu are enhanced by the seasonings and the spices. It soaks that right up, and then they bake this in a big flat tray in the oven. And then you can purchase this as it is right out of the deli case and do whatever you like with it. Maybe you cut it up and put it in a casserole. Some people like it in a sandwich. So this represents a good source of nutrition. It's a good flavor. It's very satisfying. And you can avoid, if you wish, any animal products. And you can also avoid cheese and be a complete vegan working with soy foods and have excellent nutrition. So this is our tofu. And another popular product might be some of the soy drinks. Okay, some persons are allergic to milk. So for them it's a great advantage to be able to have a prepared soy milk. Okay, now if you were to have soy milk prepared at your residence, well, you would first cook soybeans, then you would grind them, then you would allow the liquid to drain off, and you would get sort of a pale whitish bean flavored liquid. Okay, and that would be true soy milk, or soy milk in its most natural state. But it's not just terribly delicious by itself, so to make it a little more fun, they've added a little drop of oil, and they've added some natural thickeners from sea vegetables, and in some cases they've even added some flavoring. So here we have vanilla added. That makes it really good. What does it say? Purified water, organic soybeans, some malted cereal extract. So that would be a little bit of sweetness. The vanilla, the sea vegetable, and lime sea salt. So that makes it quite good. If you're ever on the run and you don't have time to fuss with something to eat, you can grab a little soy milk like this, and it's quite satisfactory. It'll get you through that meeting that falls right over the lunch hour. We have the original, the carob, and the vanilla. And this will really fill the bill if you like to have a little bit of beverage for your cereal, a little beverage in your coffee, and can keep you completely dairy-free. Now for fun, you can have, here we have a little malted, a vanilla malted, delicious non-dairy soy drink. So you have to explore the product line. When you're working with tofu, sometimes people will be like distressed or puzzled. Well, gee, the nature of tofu is kind of like a blank slate. So you can write on it with your own imagination and come up with really creative dishes. But if you're feeling a little short on imagination or time, it's easy to take a box mix such as this, tofu burger. You could think of it as tofu helper, and it's probably textured vegetable protein from the soybean, and with a little bit of powdered soy sauce and some powdered vegetables. You combine that with a pound of tofu and you get 8 great juicy burgers. And by the time they have the mustard and the tomatoes and the lettuce on the bun, they're quite satisfactory. Here's soy in yet another form. Textured vegetable protein is a kind of treatment that completely alters the nature of the soy structure, so it almost comes out chewy like burger. So in this case, you add a couple cans of tomatoes and some vegetables and simmer it. It's a very hearty and satisfying vegetarian chili. It passes the test with many, many persons who like meat. Okay, so here's looking at some of the other things we'll be including in our recipe today. Our hot and sour soup, which will feature tofu, will be based on a vegetarian stock from the shiitake mushrooms. So we're working with dried shiitakes, and I've already got them popped them in the water to soak. These are dry, and the liquid will reconstitute them. One can purchase fresh shiitake. They're available, very good, but one can always just have this on the shelf, and it's quite convenient. Shiitake are available at varying prices, at various shops. I think the ones we have here are very good quality. They have a very nice texture. So that will be the base of our hot and sour soup. I mentioned a little bit about the hot sesame oil. If that's a little too much for you, well, you can go for the plain toasted, which is not quite so hot. And then there's some other ingredients here, a good quality olive oil, good quality vinegar. Well, let's take a look now at what's simmering on our stove in our hot and sour tofu soup. So what I've done here is I've got my mushrooms are simmering. They're making their own little stock, and that can be, this is a recipe that's great because depending on what you like, you can adjust this recipe to have more of one thing or less of another. You certainly will need at least 1/3 cup of the shiitake to get the foundation for the flavoring of the soup. But if you think shiitake are yummy, and of course shiitake are good for you, you can add more and it will be fine. So I have in my pot the shiitake and maybe 2.5 or 3 cups of water, depending on how many more vegetables you want to have. Now I'm adding basil, marjoram, a little hot sesame oil, a little cider vinegar, rice wine vinegar, and soy sauce. Okay, so I'm going to put all that in and let it simmer. So what we have, so we're having the spiciness of the hot sesame oil, and then 2 kinds of vinegar. This calls for the cider vinegar as well as the rice wine vinegar, or you could use sherry if you had it, and some of the spices, the marjoram and basil. Okay, so that's going to simmer together while I look at my tofu. So here I have tofu, and you can see it's a very firm white cake. And say, well, where does such a food come from? And as you recall, I was talking about how to prepare soy milk, okay, where one first cooks the soybeans, then grinds them, then drains the liquid off, and that will be soy milk, okay? Now, what you would like to do to make tofu is very similar to how you prepare cheese. So when you have cheese, you take cow's milk and introduce rennet, okay? And that will cause the solid parts of the cheese to separate out from the liquid parts. So you'll have curds and whey. Then you take those cheese curds and you stack them up and flavor them and treat them in different ways to get cow's milk cheese or animal milk cheese. Well, in a very similar way, you make soy curd or soy cheese, other names for tofu, by introducing nagari. And nagari will be the agent which will cause the solid matter in the tofu, in the soy milk, to separate out into the curds and whey of that. So you gather up the curds, or the precipitate of the soy milk, and stack it up, and that makes into tofu. So now what we know about tofu is it has no fiber, okay, because we left the fiber behind when we cooked and ground those soybeans. So this is only the milk of the soybean treated in such a manner. it won't have the fiber. But it's very nutritious and very easy to digest. And to jazz up the tofu, we're going to go ahead and cook it. And I have in my pan here some oil. And I would suggest probably most appropriate would be to have peanut. Now, if you don't have peanut, why olive or canola would be fine. So I'm going to cube my tofu. It's very light and delicate, easily cut. When I cube it, I'm going to put it in and let it saute in the seasonings I have there, as well as some other ones. So starting within the pan, I have cumin and coriander, a little slash of soy sauce, and the oil. So I'm going to be putting our tofu in. Let it get started. The other flavorings that I'm going to add, and once again using your own discretion and how much of each you add, will be fresh ginger and fresh garlic. So there's my tofu. Here's the ginger. So the fresh ginger root has a marvelous flavor. I love ginger. So just grating it, I suppose if you wish, you can fuss with peeling your ginger, but for the most part, I don't seem to need to peel my ginger. It seems to work pretty well. And what the recipe calls for in this case is a half a tablespoon. I'll give this a stir. So we'll give that just a minute. Now you see we're not using very much oil here. So this is going to be a relatively low-fat soup. Okay, we're going to put in the garlic next. And if we feel the need, we may add yet another drop of oil. So as we toast the ginger, and we toast the garlic, that little bit of soy, the cumin and the coriander, we're giving that tofu the flavors we want to fit in with this hot and sour soup. We've already got the hot going with the hot sesame oil we put into the shiitake broth. And the sour will be the vinegar. So we'll give that a minute to cook. Take a look at our broth. Mushrooms look good. Now you can cut the mushrooms. We could take a look at a mushroom so you can see what we're working with. So here is what the dried shiitakes look like. And if you wish, of course, you can cut these in half, or you could have them be whole in the soup. So they're quite tough and dry and light. Okay. Now we're going to look at our vegetables. One of the challenges in cooking in this kind of Asian style is that you want to make sure your vegetables are crisp and still really lively. So you have a sense of each vegetable's character when you come to the final dish. So what I'd like to do, and of course depending on what your favorites are, you can have more or less of one or another, or perhaps omit one altogether. This calls for 1/4 of a head of the Chinese cabbage. I suppose if you and your family really don't like Chinese cabbage, you could leave it out altogether, but I think it adds a lot. I have some beautiful sprouts here, some mung sprouts. And I have prepared already to help the show move along quickly. We have the red and green peppers, and we have the green onions all ready to go. So they're not going to take very long at all. None of the vegetables will take very long. And the very last thing I'll put on top as a garnish will be the tops of the green onions. So this is about ready. We want them to take up a little bit of brownness, a little tan. Okay, this soup doesn't take too long once you get rolling. You want to make sure you get kind of the rawness out of the garlic. So it's had a chance to toast, pick up the flavor. The tofu has taken up the flavor. So now it's pretty simple. We're just going to combine all these. So I'll take and add my tofu to my broth. Make sure that my broth is simmering. Okay, so we can see the mushrooms in there and the tofu. And when we've got a good flame going here. So what do you think will take it the longest? I think that the peppers will have a certain amount of crispiness. We'll put those in. We'll put in the Chinese cabbage. Give it a stir. This is a pretty soup because it has the different colors. The lightness of the Chinese cabbage goes with the lightness of the tofu, the darkness of the mushrooms. So now we have all our ingredients in except for the very last minute ones. So we've got the mung sprouts and the green onions. We'll give this just a minute. We want it to just barely begin to cook. In the meantime, while that's taking just one moment, let's take a look at the other dish we're going to prepare today. We're also going to make tempeh pasta salad. So let me bring that over. So tempeh is an interesting food, certainly a challenge to many people to understand and accept how it comes about. Tempeh is a cultured soy product prepared with whole soy splits, okay? So hang on to your seats because tempeh is very delicious and very popular, but sometimes it's kind of astonishes people when we learn how it is prepared. First, the soybeans are cooked. Then they are allowed to go into splits. So as you know, a bean will divide into two halves. And when that occurs with the soybeans for tempeh, then they are considered to be properly cooked. They are inoculated with a mushroom-like spore, okay? Then they are placed in a little box and held at a certain temperature, warm and dark, okay? Then the mushroom-like spore will spread its myceli over the entire cake of soybeans until they are bound together like a little paperback book, okay? And that will add a delicious mushroomy flavor because what we have here is a cultured product which adds a good flavor, the flavor of mushrooms. My knife isn't right for the packaging here. Let's try this one. And the hardiness of the soybeans work well together. And this is available in the frozen food department. So then you come out with a food which is naturally high in fiber because it has the whole bean included, and it has a hearty flavor because it sort of has the flavor of the mushrooms, because what we have is myceli, or sort of like the threads which support a mushroom, are what flavor it, along with the natural good flavors of the soybeans. So this is a product of Indonesia, and it lends itself to many different things. So you'll see it available in the deli case as a tempeh sloppy joe. They do a number of different things with it, but probably the most popular way would be to have it prepared in the tempeh pasta salad. So what I have here is a marinade on my tempeh. I've cubed it. If you're going to be using it, in a manner in which it's not cooked, some suggest that you steam it to make sure that all the myceli are not alive. So here it looks very good and it smells very good. But I put in a little olive oil, a little soy sauce, some red wine vinegar, and some garlic. Okay, so it's taking up this marinade. And now I'm just going to put that into the frying pan and cook it in the marinade. So the marinade in which it has sat is now the sauce in which it will simmer. Okay. Now we'll take a look back at our soup, and it just doesn't take a minute to take the bright, slightly hard edge off the cabbage. So it's coming along, smells great. Well, that's almost ready. So this is what our tofu looks like, our tempeh looks like, and I've cubed it, marinated it. And the other parts of this pasta salad will include the noodles, which I've prepared here. And I cooked them a little ahead, tossed them with a little oil so they'll be ready. I've prepared the vegetables ahead. The vegetables include whatever you like, red onions, green peppers, celery, and black olives in this case. And I would recommend that you hang on to those black olives. So whatever else you do with the recipe, why, hang on to the black olives. Because in this case, the saltiness and the tang of the salad will rest in part with the tempeh, which has a very bold marinade on it, and also in part the black olives, because they're going to add sort of a salty, sort of hearty quality to it, and a bright, intense flavor. So we can see the tempeh starting to simmer. We want it to cook it until it's golden brown and most of the marinade has been taken up. In the meantime, let's look back here. Things are coming along well. I'd say we're almost ready to go. You want these to be just the other side of crunchy. I guess it's got another little second to go. Now the reason I'm sort of focusing on the tempeh is because many people have pasta salads that they like, and if you were really in a hurry, well, you might just jump for the tempeh as we prepared it here with the oil, the soy sauce, the vinegar, and the garlic. And then you could just take if you were in a hurry, an Italian dressing off the shelf. Chop your favorite vegetables, prepare your favorite pasta, and then add the tempeh to make that pasta salad really be a little heartier. So the tempeh here is the most interesting part, and probably the part that people are most unfamiliar with. Okay, how's our soup looking? I think our soup is about there. It looks pretty good. So I'm going to turn off the heat at this point. Add my mung bean sprouts. And once again, as many as you like is the right amount. Give it a stir. And just the warmth of the soup itself will make those mung beans right. Okay, I'm going to add a few green onions now. And if we wanted, we could put that right on the table. It would be very delicious. But I'll give you a little tip. Okay, now depending on whether you feel like you have a more generous hand with the vegetables or a more generous hand with the soy sauce, when you come to this point, well, you might taste it and adjust. Do we have enough salt flavoring? Would we like to have it hotter? Would we like to bring out the toasted sesame flavor? So you can adjust the final steering on the soup before you get to the table. And of course, it's fun to serve the hot sesame oil at the table as well for those people that really like to blast on the hot. When I'm preparing these dishes, I think that it's most fun to use the best quality ingredients. So in this case, I've used, instead of just ordinary old vinegar, I've used the balsamic vinegar. It has special characteristics of its own. And certainly you don't need to use very much vinegar. So I go ahead and get the balsamic, which is aged. It's a featured Italian vinegar, aged in wood for 4 years. And the best quality olive oil is a good investment because the olive oil will be an important flavoring agent. And in this case, the Colvita is a fine one. Okay, so we're about ready. And this one, and we're going to combine. So here we have our pasta. We have our vegetables. So I went ahead and prepared these vegetables. Includes a lot of parsley. I love the parsley. Gives it a good flavor and good color. And now the dressing, okay? So we have really two things going on here. We have the olive oil, wine, vinegar, garlic and soy sauce that we marinated the tempeh in, and now are sauteing the tempeh in, and then we have the separate dressing, which is the salad dressing, okay? So this is going to soak up pretty much all these flavors and all this sauce. So here we have over here what is sort of, you could consider a sort of an Italian salad dressing. So this will simply be to dress the entire salad. And it includes, again, olive oil, red wine vinegar, garlic, salt, and oregano. So I'd say that's starting to look pretty good there. So we're going to go ahead and add our salad dressing and let this get started on the flavoring. You can see you've got dried herbs are included in this as well. I like to prepare the pasta so it's really almost on the underdone side. That allows it to pick up the flavors of the dressing. And this is best if you can wait to give it an hour in the fridge, allow the flavors to meld. Okay, I think our tempeh is looking quite good. We're going to go ahead and add it. Okay, so here we have a hearty pasta salad featuring the soy product tempeh and a very delicious soup, a hot and sour soup featuring tofu. So come back and we'll show you how this looks in a pretty serving bowl. So let's take a look at some of the soy foods we've prepared today. We have the new Pioneer pasta salad, which features the soy product tempeh, a cultured soy product from Indonesia. And over here we have our hot and sour soup, which features tofu, the little white cubes, the delicious inclusion of the shiitake. So don't forget to serve when you go for this, to serve a little hot sesame oil along with the soup, and people can dress it up or down to the degree of spiciness they like. And a garnish for that soup would be some fresh green onions on top. And for our beverage, we're having the soy milk shake. So here's some delicious ideas. These are vegan, very healthful, economical, and ecologically eating with soy foods. Thanks for joining me. I'm Theresa Carbrey. New Pioneer Presents.